welcome to Sarah's Stamping Retreat. Today I'm going to be creating 7 pretty clean and simple cards, and we're going to be using some inky techniques as well. And to do that we're going to be using this John Next Door kit called Dragonfly Delights that comes with this month's Simply Cards and Papercraft magazine. So with the magazine you get this dragonfly die that coordinates with these 2 stamps. Then you've got all the sentiments, and you also get this lovely embossing folder, and then you also get the digi files for these papers. So I've printed these papers myself, but you get the digi files free with the magazine. So I really love this one, it's beautiful colours, and a lot of them are similar designs but in different colours, so that's really nice. And I think the beauty of having the digi files is that you can just print whatever you need for your project. So I think in a paper pack there are always some things that you love more than others. But with this one you can print all the ones you love over and over again and never print the ones that you don't love. So then we've got these toppers as well. I especially love these ones. So let's get on and make some cards. So for my first card I've got a purple card blank that's 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. Then I've got this black piece of cardstock that is 3 3/4 by 5 inches, and then this piece is 1/8 of an inch smaller than that. So I want to create a bit of an ink splatter look, but with gold on the back of here. Now you could do this with gold paint, you could do it with like gold splatter spray, but I'm going to flick water over my paper, and then I'm going to use my polished gold Superfine embossing powder from Wow to cover that. And you can see the powder sticks really nicely to those droplets. Then I'm going to heat that. So I think that's a really fun technique for creating ink splatters with whatever colours of embossing powder you've got. And then I've created these dragonflies using a nice inky technique that I will show you. So first I'm going to heat emboss this dragonfly in black. And then I'm going to grab a detail blending brush, and I'm going to grab my Distress Oxide ink. So I'm going to start with Broken China, and I'm going to use this blending brush. This one's a detail blending brush from Altenew, and I'm going to use them a bit like paints. And because I want all the colours to kind of blend together a little bit, I'm not worried about changing the brush before I pick up another colour. This brush, by the way, is from this detail blending brushes pack. There's 3 brushes in it, so this is the finest one, and then you get these 2 too. So I've done Broken China for the middle, shaded Lilac for the insides of the wings, and then I'm going to use this Kitsch Flamingo to add some pink to the edges of the wings. And these brushes are really nice for this, it is just like painting really. And then because they kind of layer over each other you get a nice kind of blended look. So then I can cut that out with the coordinating die. So then I'm going to use the Happy Birthday sentiment from the set, and I'm going to heat emboss that in the black onto this piece of white cardstock. So then what I'm going to do is I am going to pop these dragonflies up on foam pads. And I'm going to pop those up all over this piece of white cardstock. And then I'm going to cut around this sentiment. So I'm actually only going to use those 3 dragonflies, I'm not going to use the 4th. And then I'm just going to pop some foam pads behind this half of my sentiment, and then a bit of glue behind the other half. And then all I've got left to do is glue the layers together. And then there's that first card done. And that's a super quick way of colouring those dragonflies with the inks. So for my second card, I'm going to use a UK A6 card, so that's 4 1/8 by 5 7/8 inches. And I've got another piece of cardstock the same size. And I'm going to pop that through my die cutting machine in my embossing folder. So now that we've got our lovely panel, I'm going to ink it up. So I'm going to add some Kitsch Flamingo to the top. And some shaded lilac to the bottom. Then I'm going to temporarily tape this to the card front. I'm using bits of old tape so they're not as sticky. And then I'm going to use this die to cut an aperture through the two pieces. Now this still looks really pretty because we inked it, and it does have some dimension, but it lost some of its dimension when we die cut it because obviously that flattens it out a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop this back in my embossing folder. I've lined it up so that it matches back up again, and then I'm going to pop it back through my die cutting machine. So now you can see I've added all that dimension back in again. So then I'm going to go in on my card front, and I just want to go around the edges to make the edges nice and bright, because I'm going to cut the edges off this embossed panel. So then I can lay this on here to see roughly where the purple and the pink blend into each other. And then I'm going to go around the bottom with the purple. So now you can see that creates a really nice outline for this. So then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pop some double-sided tape around here. And then I'm going to add some acetate to the back of it. So then I'm going to heat emboss both of the dragonfly parts. You can see on that one I seem to have a bit of a smudge across there, so I'm going to stamp that one again because I don't want any smudges. While I'm embossing, I'll also heat emboss this with love. So you can see I've been playing with different colours down here, and I think this one here and this one go best with this card. So these are my Caring brush markers, and I've got the pale violet and the pale pink. And I'm just going to use those to colour these images. And I'm going to use them with one of the blender pens, and I'm just going to touch the tips so you can see that that blender pen is picking up some of that pink. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to start in the middle here, and then I'm going to push that out to the end. You'll see that as it gets to the end it will get lighter. So this one's going to be on the top and this one's going to be on the bottom. So you won't see as much of this, but I'm going to colour it anyway because you'll see a little bit of it sticking out and I don't want it to look funny. But I'm not going to take as much care with the colouring, I'm just going to colour it flat. And then I'm going to scribble this off to make sure there's no pink left. And then I'm going to do the exact same thing with the purple. So now that they're coloured, I'm going to die cut them both out. So then I can layer these together. Obviously I don't want this bit here on this one. So I'm going to cut right up to the body. I'm going to cut around that and I'm going to cut down the other side again. So then I'm just going to fold those wings up, and then I'm going to use a couple of mini glue dots on the body. I don't want to attach them to the wings. And then you can see that we've got this cool double layer effect. So then I want to add a little bit of interest to the inside of the card. And I've got the Kitsch Flamingo Distress Oxide spray, but I don't want a spray of it, I want like a flick of it. So I'm going to dip in my paintbrush and give it a bit of a flick. If you don't want it all over the inside of your card, you could always mask off the bit that you want it on. So then I've changed my mind about the sentiment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this Thinking of You. And I'm going to heat emboss that onto a piece of vellum. And use the black. So then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just fold this around the back of the card. And then I'm going to add a piece of tape on this side, a piece of tape on this side, and I'm going to add that behind there. I'm going to add that behind there. Then I'm going to glue this piece onto here. And then I'm going to use these micro glue dots to add this on. And that looks really cool on 3-dimensional. So for my next card, I've taken the largest one of these Craft Atelier hexagon nailing dies, and I've cut it from this 5.5 by 6 inch card blank that I have created from pink cardstock. So you can see that I've just overlapped this edge on the folded edge so that I don't cut the folded edge, and then I've cut through the 2 pieces of cardstock. So now I've got this card blank. So then I've taken one 2 sizes down and cut it out of black, and one size down from that and cut it out of white, and we're going to use the white one for now. So then I'm going to take the dragonfly and I'm going to stamp this all over this hexagon. And then I'm also going to stamp it on some vellum. And I'm going to heat emboss the vellum one in white embossing powder. And this is the opaque bright white superfine embossing powder from Wow. And then the ones on the hexagon I'm going to do in clear gloss embossing powder. And this one's also superfine and also from Wow. So then I'm going to grab in my shaded Lilac Distress Oxide ink. I'm going to start applying some of that onto here. And you see those dragonflies are starting to show through really nicely. And then I'm going to add some of that on this side as well. And then I'm going to go grab the Kitsch Flamingo and just go down the middle. And then I'll go back in with a little more shaded lilac on the edges. So I've actually decided to go with this brighter pink for the card base rather than this one. I think it goes better with that pink that we've used. And then I'm going to grab the Get Well Soon sentiment. I'm going to heat emboss that onto some vellum. And I can heat emboss that in black. So I've cut that into a bit of a strip. I need to see how much I need. So I'm just going to chop off a bit this side. And then I'm just going to tear down here. So that you get that kind of rough edge. So I'm going to fold those behind. And then I can attach those with some tape. So then I'm going to add this black piece onto my card blank. Then I'm going to add on this inked hexagon. I was going to put that on, but actually I've decided to go with this one, you know, the one that I had over before, because actually I think it stands out more. So I'm going to put that one on instead, and I'll use the vellum one on a different card. And then I'm just going to add on a few of these clear gems. Then that's that card done. So for this next card, we're going to do one of my favourite embossing folder techniques, which is the heat emboss letterpress technique. So for that, I've put some wow embossing refill onto this big acrylic block. You could use any kind of craft service that's non-absorbent, and I'm just going to ink up my braille with it, and then I'm going to grab some scrap paper, and then I'm going to lightly roll that onto here. You don't want to go too heavy, just a light roll. Then I'm going to put in this purple cardstock, and I'm going to pop that through my die cutting machine. So then I'm going to cover this in silver embossing powder. So then I'm going to grab my wow embossing pen, and I'm just going to fill in some of these bits around the outside and mist it on the embossing folder. And then I can add some extra embossing powder. So then I'm going to cut that down around the edge of that embossed area. Then I'm going to glue my embossed panel to the card. It's just a UK A6 card of the same colour. And then I'm going to grab some vellum, and I'm going to use this Deepest Sympathy sentiment. I'm going to heat emboss that with white embossing powder. And then I want a panel to go behind it. I want it to tie into the silver embossing that we've done. So I'm just going to add some embossing ink to the edge of this cardstock. And then I'm going to add on the embossing powder. So I've cut this down into a strip, and I've cut a strip of the silver embossed as well. And I'm just going to add some tape across the back. So then I've got that little panel to go on there. And then I'm going to use this dragonfly that I created for the last card that we didn't use as well. So I'm only adding adhesive to the body so the wings can stick up a bit. Now I'm going to add some foam strips behind the sentiment. So then there's that card finished. I really like how delicate that is in the vellum. So then while we've got this all inky, then I'm going to do that same heat emboss letterpress technique again. This time we're going to do it with white cardstock, and we're going to step it up a little bit. So this time I'm going to use my black embossing powder, and this is the primary Ebony Superfine from Wow. So then all I really want for this is this section down here. I'm just adding some colour onto here with those brush markers. So then I'm going to mount that on a piece of pink cardstock that's 1/8 of an inch bigger than it. And then I also cut this out of the circle part of that embossed panel, and then I'm going to glue that onto this pink circle that I cut with the die one bigger. Then I've got a A6 card blank, and I've cut a piece of this purple paper, same size as it, and then I'm going to heat emboss this happy birthday sentiment onto it. And then I'm going to just heat emboss that in this corner. black embossing powder. This, by the way, is the same black embossing powder as I was using earlier in the big pot, but I just decanted some of it into the smaller pot. I use a lot of black embossing powder, so Wow kindly sent me that huge pot, but sometimes it's better to just have the little pot. So I'm going to glue this onto my card front. Then I'm going to glue my pieces onto my card. And then I'll glue this over. And then I made this exactly the same way that I made this one here. So I'm going to glue that onto here. Then I've got some black gems. I'm just going to dot those around the outside of the circle. Then there's that card done. Then for this next card, I want to do a inky embossing technique that is very similar to the heat embossed letterpress technique, but we're going to use a coloured ink instead. So I'm going to take my shaded Lilac Distress Oxide ink and I'm going to ink up my braille with it. And then I'm going to roll that ink onto the back part of my embossing folder. I want to get plenty of ink on there. And in fact, what I might do is actually ink up the front part as well and just see which side turns out nicer. It's not something I'd normally do, but then we can see the different effects. So then I'll pop this in here and emboss it. Then there you can see that's the debossed image and that's the embossed image, and the embossed one came out much better, so I'm going to use that side. But with this card I want to make a square card, so I'm going to cut that down into a square. So now I've cut that down, that is 4 inches square, and then I've cut a piece of purple cardstock 1/8 of an inch bigger. I've also got a 5-inch square purple card blank, this piece is 1/4 of an inch smaller, and I've also just die cut a circle around this from the pack. So this is one of those printed sheets. You can see I've die cut that from the centre of there, and then I ended up printing this twice so that I could get 2 of these dragonflies, and I've fussy cut those out as well. So then I'm just going to build them up. So I'm going to glue everything together. And then I'm going to use fine pads between each of the layers to give some depth. I definitely recommend foam tape for this, but I don't have any at the moment. And then I'm just going to put some glue on the bodies of these dragonflies. I'm going to have them coming in from the corners. And there's that one finished. So for this last card, I'm just going to emboss this pink piece of cardstock, and then I'm going to add a bit of the shaded lilac ink. That's a nice thing about these Distress Oxide inks, because they sit on top of the cardstock instead of sinking into it. Then you can ink them onto coloured cardstocks as well. Now I'm just doing this area around here because we're going to create a circle cardstock. So I'm just going to cut a circle out of here. So I'm going to use this one to cut an aperture out of the middle, and then I'm going to use this larger one to cut a circle around the outside, so that we get that kind of embossed frame. So then now we've got this embossed frame. So then I want to heat emboss my dragonfly onto the vellum. I'm not quite sure whether I want it in white or in black, so I'm actually going to heat emboss it twice, and then I'll see whether I like the white or the black best. So I had a look at this. I've got a pink die cut, and I'm just looking at whether I want the white or the black. I think I want the black, but I think both quite nice options. So I've got a 5.5 inch pink circle. I've actually got 2 of those to make up my card blank. So with the back one, I'm going to cut 1/2 inch off the back, and then I'm going to turn that round, line that up at the 4.5 inch mark, and then I'm going to score across there. So I'm making sure that that is nice and level with that 4.5 inch mark. So then I'm going to pop some glue above that, and then I'm going to add on my other circle. And then I've just got a bunch of these circles that I've cut out. So I've cut this out of the paper that I printed. I've cut a black mat for that. So the black one is roughly 1/2 inch smaller than the pink one, and the purple is about 1/4 inch smaller than the black. And then I've got a black that is roughly 1/2 inch smaller than this purple, and onto that I'm going to add this, and I'm going to add that on foam. So I'm going to use some of these foam strips and just put them around there. Then I'm going to glue that purple circle inside. So that one's about 1/4 inch smaller than the aperture in this panel. And then I've die cut this with love out of the pack, and I've got a black circle that's about 1/4 inch bigger than that. And then I'm going to pop that on foam pads as well. And I'm going to glue that on. So then I'm going to use my sticky dots just to add some dots behind the body. And then I'm going to glue that down over the pink one. And then I'm going to glue that onto my card. So that's that card finished. I'm going to bring in all the others. So there are all of today's cards. I really hope that you've enjoyed making them with me. I'd love to know which is your favourite. Please do let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed today's video, I'd really appreciate you clicking like below, and you can also press subscribe if you'd like to see future videos. If you press the bell button and select all, then YouTube will also notify you when I've got a new video available. All of the products that I've used for today's cards are listed in the description below, and there's also a link there to my blog where you can find a pictures supply list if that helps you find what you're looking for. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope to see you again soon.